The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for the Guillotine Grapevine, a podcast for the land of 10,000 wrestlers. 10,000 wrestlers. Now, here's your host, award-winning wrestling broadcast journalist, Jason Bryant.
Episode 46 of the Guillotine Grapevine podcast. Jason Bryant here with you as we're ready to jet set across the globe for the Junior World Championships coming up in Trnava, Slovakia. Let's hope I'm saying that right. There's a lot of consonants, maybe two vowels. We'll figure that out. But today our guest is from Pinnacle Wrestling School, Jared Lawrence. We're going to be talking about Junior World Championships. We're talking about prospectus on the Gopher lineup, some of the kids from Pinnacle that are moving to the next level. Jared, welcome back on the program.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Now, we're talking Junior Worlds. You had an opportunity to compete in 2 Junior World Championships. You were a bronze medalist in 2000. Let's just go back in time. What was it like leaving the United States for the Junior World Championships, first in 1999 in Sydney?
Yeah, so Sydney was actually super cool because the Olympics were there shortly after. So it was kind of like their way of like
test event,
shooting.
Essentially.
Yeah. So it was really cool. We went to Cambria for, we were there for like maybe a week to 10 days training there. They had great facilities and they kind of wanted to make sure they were good because I think a lot of the, Olympic sports, that's where they were going to be just kind of acclimating to everything. So they had a really nice training center there. And it was cool to wake up in the morning and in the field where like, in Minnesota, you see cows in the field. One morning we woke up, we went for a run and it was still dark out and you could see all these eyes. And we were like, what the heck is that? And they were kangaroos just chilling in the field.
Yeah, as opposed to where you grew up in Idaho, there, you're going out for a run, you're not seeing kangaroos. What are you seeing in that realm?
Not. In Idaho's, we run into like moose and stuff.
The occasional bear.
We're a little bit more where it's, dangerous and cool.
I don't know. You see the theories about kangaroos that, they got the boxing gloves on and their graphics over there. I mean, kangaroos pretty fierce.
I've actually heard they're pretty angry. You're like, you don't want to mess with a kangaroo. So they actually told us, they're like, don't go over and try to pet those things.
And they got some, and their claws are weird too. It's
their claws, their legs, I guess, are extremely powerful. They'll sit back on their tail and their front legs can kick.
It's like that old the Looney Tunes cartoon with the giant kangaroo that they think it's a mouse, and Sylvester just gets the crap beat out of him all the time. Did you think we'd be talking cartoons here on the show? Did you think we'd be talking Looney Tunes?
I didn't. I did not, actually. That was not part of my ideas to talk about.
Yeah, it wasn't actually on my list, too. Now, was that the first time you left the country? Outside of probably going into Canada?
No. So when I made a cadet world team once, and it was the cadet world championships were just kind of starting back up, but they were in Iran, and our State Department wouldn't let us go. So we went to Russia for about 10 days and just kind of worked out there, did a couple tournaments in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and then we flew down south. I don't actually know where. I'm imagining it was like Dagestan. We landed on a dirt runway, so I'm not totally sure where it was, but they were good. Let's just put it that way. We had like 2 duels, and we won like 2 matches.
Yikes.
We had like 14. But so, yeah, other than that, though, it was my second time probably.
So you got kids coming through Pinnacle and the Minnesota Storm and the level of kids that are coming through that are going overseas. We talked to Paxton Crease earlier this year about going to Pan Ams and such. And what is your advice to these athletes when they're strapping up ready to leave the country for the first time?
I just think they need to take it in. It was one of the things that we love about our sport is that it allows you to see the world through events. I mean, there's a lot of people that barely leave the state, let alone the country. And like when I look back at my career, I was like, man, I have been to some, granted, I would like to maybe be to a little bit more exotic places than I've been to wrestling, but it's, I think it's a great learning experience and a life altering experience when you can see different countries and see how different people are being raised and what they have. And, it gives you a little bit of a little reality check, like, gosh, man, my life is, it's pretty good.
Yeah. What's the most exotic, you use the term exotic. What's the most exotic place you've been?
We went to France. So my next year between Australia and my next Junior World was France. Those were pretty nice. But when you get stuck with like Uzbekistan and you're over in like Siberia, those are not the greatest places. Siberia is not in the middle of winter. Siberia is not the most awesome place to be. And
I'm assuming you're probably talking about Krasnoyarsk, right?
Yeah. Where it's like negative 40, like with no wind. Like that's just like the normal temperature. That's not even wind chill. That's just like negative 40, and it's cold. But yeah, it is what it is.
And you say that living in the climate you live in now.
Yes, it's good. If Minnesota people are saying it's cold, trust me, it's cold.
Yeah. So, what do you remember about the trip to France where you took a bronze medal at the World Championships and stood on that podium with the red, white, and blue?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was fun. I had some teammates on the team. We enjoyed it, and training was good. Tournaments was good. It's nice to be in a world championship setting where you have different countries and everybody's from a different country. There's not like 4 from here and 4 from there. It's just everybody's from a different country, and you can't pronounce half of them. So it's just like, okay, I got this guy from this place. That's awesome.
Yeah, just to adopt the Terry Brands way of saying, okay, we got Japan, and then we got Poland, and then we got India. No names. It's just name the country. Who you got next? Oh, yep. we got the Czech Republic. In such a matter-of-fact way. Now, looking at how kids train today and how you've been involved with helping train kids for these world and continental championships, what are the differences from your era, which, may not seem that long ago to us because we were, teenagers when that era happens. And now, flash forward, it's been 18 years since you won a bronze medal. I mean, what are the differences in training you've seen from your era to now?
I actually think the sport has evolved incredibly since. I actually blame it on the weight cut. Back when they actually took away weight cutting so much, it's just that then all of a sudden there was a jump. The sport evolved. The whole idea of scrambling and the way people move nowadays. Back in our days, like somebody got to your leg, you tried to defend it the basic, simplest way, and if you did it, great, and if not, that okay, he's going to get a takedown on me and I have to, start all over again. But now there's so many different ways to defend one move. There's like 10 different ways I can go different routes. And if one doesn't work, I can always come back to plan B. If plan B doesn't work, plan C is right behind it. There's just so many different moves and counters and ways that you can scramble and get into some different sequences. It's just amazing. So we try to keep up to par on all the new stuff. We try to do a pretty good job of it.
What about the technical side of it? Because we had an era there, and that was part of your senior level career, where the ball draw and the 3-period stuff that was just it was ugly to watch. But how hard was that to coach, coming from a situation where you had old rules that played really to Americans' better folk style abilities?
Now we're back. We're back to what it was like when I was young. Where it's really 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, and you're able to actually get some things going. I still feel like the refs still get involved too much. Me personally, it seems like the match has been going 30 seconds. They blow the whistle, they stop, they give somebody a warning. They keep going, they stop it again, and it's like, why don't we just let's not stop. Let's just let it continue to wrestle. So, but I think they're still working at it. But I think they're getting better compared to where it was when I was. After college. The ball grab, I really wasn't a fan of, but
yeah, I mean, usually that's not a terminology that anybody would be a fan of. Let's be honest. In terms of when I was broadcasting, I had to make sure that I always said ball draw, because as a broadcaster, the last thing you want to do is end up on Deadspin saying somebody, oh, well, great ball grab by Blue there. You don't want to say that. I mean,
got it noted.
Double entendres everywhere. I mean, you could have a field. Jim Rome would have a field day with stuff like this. Now, as we look at the importance of the Cadet and Junior World Championships now, do you think that that's had an impact in the number of kids? Now, Akron seems to be the big push for the UWW Cadet age group. Fargo, the way the schedules are working, that sometimes the Cadet Worlds are kind of overlapping Fargo a little bit. The importance less on Fargo for the elite kids than, say, Akron making a Cadet World team or making a Junior World team.
Yeah. Yep. I think what's nice now is that USA Wrestling is really trying to push the cadets, the juniors, and the seniors together. So when you make a Cadet World team, you're working out with senior, athletes, which I think is where it really is starting to, younger people are seeing the work and the effort and the passion that our senior level athletes are putting in, and they're trying to follow in those footsteps.
When was your first access really to senior level athletes?
Probably, and I don't even know if we did that when I was a junior world team. We had our own practices, but I don't remember working out with seniors. So I would probably say not until I was, in college and later in my career when you're good enough to go to, the national team training camps.
Yeah, because now what USA Wrestling has, they had these future camps where they're bringing in cadets that may not be on the ladder yet, but I know some kids from my hometown went out to, I think they called it the 2020 camp at that time, and this has been a couple years ago. Freshmen, sophomores in high school get out, they get to experience it before they even probably hit that ladder, so to speak. And do you think that the top-down aspect, a lot of people talk about grassroots, filling up the coffers of USA Wrestling from the age levels all the way up, but it seems like USA Wrestling has definitely made an effort to put more of their stamp on the grassroots levels. What have you seen from that as a coach and from the grassroots level here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think more than anything it's more opportunities like that 2020 camp. It's open to kids. I mean, it's not. I don't even know if they hand feed it. I don't know if they necessarily pick it. They may, but yes, you have much more ability to get your hands on, our national team coaches. More kids are getting together and working out. Back when I was in high school, I was not working out with a ton of other people on different occasions through the camp, all over the country. That's kind of what Pinnacle is doing now. We have some folk style camps where we're meeting up with other clubs, and you got guys coming from the East, you got guys coming from Ohio area, you guys got coming from Oklahoma area, you got Midwest people coming in to where they get together and they just get better. I didn't have that when I was in high school. I didn't have the ability to work out with people from different areas of the country. You might be working out with maybe somebody from a few hours away, but that is it, not different states.
I'm saying, you look at the way these kids train now, and it's not like there's pockets like, okay, the only time you get to hang out with a guy is at camp. They're seeing each other at tournaments. They're on more trips together. Like, you're sitting there, it's like, okay, how often did you get to hang out with Matt Lackey and Clark Forward prior to going to the World Championships?
Yeah, never. Yeah, I definitely think USA Wrestling is on the right page of getting these kids together, getting them to work out together. You're putting them around coaches that are very talented and know what they're doing, especially in the freestyle aspect. There's a lot of different strategies that play into edge, push outs, that kind of thing that definitely, takes, the more you're around it, the better you are at it.
Tying this into Minnesota, we've got Brady Bergen and Gable Steveston on the junior world team. Greg Kirkvliet, injured, I believe with a knee injury, is out, and he will not be competing, replaced by Zach Elam, who is at the University of Missouri now. And that would have been a Pinnacle kid on the junior world team. I mean, coming off of the Cadet World Championships, what were you expecting from Kirkvliet at the junior worlds?
To be honest, I was expecting, I was hoping that, he would be right in there in the mix to win a world medal. Cadets, he was giving up some size because he wasn't big by any means for that cadet weight, but junior, he was actually going to have to actually cut some weight. So I think he would have been a little bit right more where the size that he would have been at to be very, very well in the contention to win a world medal.
Now, he also made his commitment, and he had opened up his commitment a couple times. He initially committed to the Gophers, then he commits to Oklahoma State, and then now he's officially committed to Ohio State. And when we last talked at Pinnacle, we had you and we talked to Brandon about it, and there were a lot of flags of different Division I schools around that room. And one misconception maybe outside of these borders is that the Pinnacle kids are all going to go to the U. We've seen that's not the case. But what do you see from Kirk Willaert that will, one, make him a good international wrestler as a senior level athlete, but two, make him a real steal for a college program, and in this case, the Ohio State University?
Yeah. So, Greg is one, he's very passionate about wrestling. He's always looking to work out and get better. And his family does a tremendous job of bringing him to different places. And he does not care who he works out with. If there is somebody that is pretty good that lives like on the border of Canada and Minnesota, and they're like, hey, do you want to come up and just work out? He is like, Dad, I want to go do that. And, Greg Sr. will bring him up there. And, he's one of those guys where he doesn't need a lot of instruction. He'll take it and he'll soak it in, but he's also really good at just working out and working on the things that he knows that he's picked up over time. And so I think that aspect is he will really sponge in. He loves to work out. He loves to get better. He'll sponge in technique as much as you can throw at him, and he's a tremendous athlete. I mean, that is pretty much the recipe for awesome.
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times on the show since. We actually did show up and did an episode from the match with him and Gable when they wrestled during the season at Simley. And when you look at a match like that in hindsight, and can the magnitude of that type of match be overstated at all? I mean, you had two world champions meeting in a high school gym on a Friday night. It was pretty special.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that hype might just continue on.
As we also talk about Minnesotans on the team, Brady Bergen spent some time in the room coming up and training with, we had an episode from Pinnacle where him and Griffin Perriott were working out, and Brady's on the team, a guy from Casson Vanderville. And what do you see out of him that at his next level perspectives, not just at Penn State, but for this upcoming Junior World Championships?
Yeah, so he's the same way. The only thing that separates, I think, him from Greg is Greg's a little longer. Sometimes when you're longer in at least a folk style setting, things can be a little different, maybe with writing and things like that. For some reason, in my brain, I always think like, okay, this guy's longer. He has, I wouldn't say an easier time writing, but you just see when I watch college wrestling, I see it seems like shorter people have a little bit, they just don't quite have the leverage in terms of riding, where Greg is. I mean, he can get a wrist, he can throw legs in, he's can adapt pretty well anywhere on top. But Brady's the exact same way. He loves to work out, loves to get better, takes any criticism you have. He's again, they're like sponges. They soak it in. You tell them to do something or you point something out to them, they really sponge it in and they let it sink in and they listen, and they're very coachable. They work hard, and they're both pretty athletic. So yeah, he's the same way. He's been a great person to work with throughout the years.
Now, as a Gopher alum, is it kind of hard sometimes, just a little bit in the back of your mind, to know that these two kids have left to go to other programs, and oddly, the three we're talking about here with Bergie Steveston and Kirk Willaert are all going to teams that have won national championships in the past decade?
Yeah, I'm going to have love for Minnesota because I am there, but we really have to stay out of all college recruiting processes. It doesn't work out. There's been a few times where you get a little bit, maybe we've always tried to not get involved, but sometimes you get a little too over involved accidentally. And that's when bridges can get burned and things can get a little wishy-washy. So we've just pretty much said, you know what? We need to stay out of all recruiting. That's between this kid and his parents. And, we just kind of weigh the pros and the cons of these places versus these places, and, make your decision from there. Go where you feel the best. And that's all we can do. Otherwise it gets into be an issue. And it will continue to get an issue where whatever it is, whether it's I have a lot of great relationship with college coaches, and I want to keep those. And as you start pushing one way or the other way, that's when, everything can kind of fall apart. So we've just kind of said, you know what, dealing with college and recruiting, we're just going to stay out.
One athlete, Gable Steveston, is going to be a Gopher. He's expected to see starting time already as a true freshman, going in to try to repeat as a junior world champion. Was actually cadet age when he won it last year. His match helped Team USA win the junior world championships. And what have you seen out of Gable, even as a heavyweight, that puts him...
Gable, again, is a tremendous athlete. When I watch him, I really sit back and say, man, that guy can he has a very good awareness of the sport of wrestling. He's relaxed, he's explosive, but he knows positions. Like if there's a position that he can take, he'll take it. But if it's not there, he knows not to go for the position that he doesn't have. That's what I see where his greatest asset is he knows exactly when to throw, when to get out of the position, and he's athletic enough to where some people will have to bail out of the position, but he can actually continue to wrestle out of the position because of, as a big guy, he's extremely flexible, he's extremely quick, he's extremely strong, that kind of stuff. I can't go too much into work stuff just because he's not one of our guys, so I don't see him practice, very often.
But when you look at, so shifting this to maybe putting your Gopher lenses on and being an alum versus being a coach at a club, what are you excited about to see him wearing maroon and gold this year?
Yeah, I think we're always excited to somebody that can really spice it up and bring action. I think we're excited. It would have, I'm always excited for any recruit that lands itself in the Gophers that actually can be a aggressive attacking wrestler and go out there and believe in it.
Shifting gears a little bit, we've had a couple athletes come into the Minnesota Storm and the Minnesota Training Center. Nazar Kolchitsky's come over from Wisconsin. Brett Farr, of course, a former Gopher. He is in the mix. Dustin Schlater's assumed the role as the club coach in that respect. And looking at it from a senior level aspect, and what excites you about what's happening with the Minnesota Storm and the Minnesota Training Center?
Yeah, I think it's RTCs are a big deal of bringing people in, and more kids, especially recruits, are looking for that after, when I get done, I want to train. So it's a really big factor with these young guys that are they're not just thinking college. They're like Greg, he's thinking after college. He's like, okay, that's great, but when I get done with college, I want to be ready to, hit the circuit and hit it hard. So you have to have people that are training freestyle there. So when you're outside of season, that freestyle can be hit so that when you get there, you're not 5 years behind. Some colleges believe that, while you're here, we're not going to train freestyle. That's not going to help us in college. It's not going to help us in folk style. So we're not going to train freestyle too much. But a lot of guys, the wrestlers these days, they want that. They want to be training freestyle in the off season. So when they're done with college, they're not behind. They're ready to get right in the mix. And so those RTCs become, pretty important when you run those RTC practices, that you have a bunch of different athletes. So the more senior athletes that you can have, Minnesota, they got quite a bit of athletes now, which is, it's really exciting. It'll bring the fans in, it'll bring the booster club in, because now you're not just kicking, it's not just one or two people, you actually have a team together. When I was training in 2000, 4 to 8, we had the same thing. We had 10 people training. It was more of a team aspect versus, I think it was mainly through 2004. And then when 2000, 6, 7, 8 came around, there was less people. We lost people like Brandon Agam and Tim Hartung, and we had Jesus Wilson training here, Doug Schwab training here. We had enough people to where other people were coming to Minnesota, which was kind of nice. Same thing, hopefully now when they have more athletes, now you'll get the guy who maybe does not have that many athletes. Maybe he's training at an RTC where they only have a couple. They will travel to these RTCs it'll just bring more people around.
Yeah, because it used to be basically the out-of-town guys were pretty much all Greco. The freestyle guys were mostly former Gophers, with the exception of maybe, like a Kevin LaValle, who was a GA or something like that. Somebody was on staff from another school. Yeah. Now you're seeing a lot more. Kolchitsky went Division III. He's a 3-time D3 champ at Oshkosh. So, and then you've got Farr as a former Gopher. So you're getting that dynamic thing that you were talking about. And one thing that's also, I think, dynamic about the Storm and how it trains is you'll have a Greco practice at the U, a Greco practice at Augsburg, a Greco practice at Pinnacle, freestyle practices. It's how the synergy between the styles, the coaching staffs, and the facilities. How much of a benefit is that? Looking at it from, if you'd have had this when you were an athlete, how well do you think it would have helped you?
Yeah, yep. It really is incredible, and them getting a new facility and actually like the new eating quarters. I want to say they're spoiled. Really, I'm just jealous of what they will have versus the dungeon that we had. But you know what? There's something to say that maybe that dungeon made us. We weren't spoiled. We didn't have food made for us. It's nice. It's a nice luxury, but maybe it'll. Sometimes it's good to be roughing it a little bit, but I am a little envious of the facility stuff that they have now. I'm not going to lie.
Shifting gears a little bit, talking Minnesota wrestling, one of my buddies down in Mankato, Chris Willaert, who sadly couldn't make the Rio Olympics. Me and Quamme like to throw that in his face a little bit, but he did offer me some good questions to ask us. Says, hey, I got Lawrence coming on this show, and he throws me some things. I'm like, you know what? These are good questions. So prepare to be attacked on all sides by the questions from Chris Willaert. Are you ready for these challenging questions, Mr. Lawrence?
All right, bring them on.
All right, excluding the NCAA finals, the year you won it, what is your favorite college match ever and why?
Okay, well, this is normally you don't have matches you lost, but my freshman year, sophomore year. I think it was my sophomore. No, maybe it was. I think it was my freshman year. I was wrestling Reggie Wright from Oklahoma State, and we were in the wrestle background, so I think this is like consolation semis. We're talking like 2000, and he got off to an 8-1 lead after the first period. He had just put me on my back and was whooping up on me, and then by the end of the match, I came back and tied the match 12-12. And I still lost on riding time criteria, but it was one of those matches that sticks into my brain that it was a hell of a match. It was super fun. People came up to me and they just, they were like, you know what? I know you lost that match, but that was one of the best college matches that I have seen. So everybody always wants the win matches, but that one sticks out as one that I lost. But coming back and almost doing it to a guy that I had not beaten very much. I think I'd only beat him one time in our entire career, but it was a fun match from what I can remember other than losing.
Do you think you could take Paulsen in a Greco match right now?
No.
No? Even
though I'm like 80 pounds heavier than him, which I'm not quite 80, but Paulsen in the world of Greco is like, I was not a huge Greco guy, so I did not know the knowledge about this, but just being around and watching, I get baffled every time. And he can't even go into the depth as he would want to, just because they're not at that level yet. Our high school kids just aren't ready to do some of the stuff that he can do. It just is a freakishly amazing talent when it comes to, especially to Greco.
Do you think he can hit a flying squirrel?
Easy. Maybe he's like 50, but he could easily handle that.
I don't think he's that old.
We told our kids the other night too. He was doing a round off, and we jump up afterwards, and we were like, "Yeah, Paulsen back in the day, he would have done a double backflip, easy." We lie to these. They're white lies. Is that okay if they're small lies to make them good? But yeah, we said that he used to do double backs back when he was their age, and they're just like youth. So they all look at it and they're like, "Oh, wow." And that's not true. He's never close to doing a double back, but is it okay if we lie in it, as long as it's in a joking full setting?
Well, I think you've kind of pretty much let the cat out of the bag with what that is now here on the show. Now, I also want to say that what isn't a lie is you can go to the Anoka High School trophy case and look and see at a Paulsen at that age with a glorious mullet.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Next question. Who's the most athletic wrestler? Not the best wrestler in credentials, but like the best pure athlete you've ever coached?
Gosh, now that is one that I don't know that I can answer right away. I think I'd really have to sit back and think of it, because we have, like, when we talk about like gymnastics and athletics, we have some like youth kids right now. They're like 8th graders these guys are like doing like a 1.5 twist with a backflip that is self-taught. Like, they didn't go to gymnastics. We just have fun in our warm-ups, and they were like, hey, I'm going to try to hit this thing with it as well. So that one I can't answer, I don't think, because I'd really have to sit down and write some names down and be like, whew, man, that kid was athletic. That kid was strong. That kid, remember that kid? He could do that. So I can't answer that off the top of my head. My brain doesn't work like that.
If the facility has 2 different size offices for you and Paulsen, how do you settle who gets the bigger one?
I would just give it to Brandon, just because he does more of the office work. So he should get a bigger office, I would think, even though he's smaller. But as far as company stuff, he definitely does more work than I do. I'm more of the talking, fun janitor guy.
Janitor guy, yeah. You stock the fridge. Who stocks the fridge? You or him?
And I stock the fridge, yes.
So next time I'm in there, I know who to complain with.
Well, yeah. Sometimes it's not always full.
Excluding yourself on those Gopher teams, who did you most enjoy just sitting and watching wrestle?
Out of all the Gopher teams?
Of the ones you were on.
Oh boy. That's also pretty hard. I got all kinds of them. I can't answer that either. I got too many friends that I might piss off. But I'll tell you what, our teams when I was there were super awesome. The bond that we all had with each other was just awesome. I really, when people ask me about college and decisions and times, and I had passed up a lot of money for some money. And people are like, gosh, I can't believe you, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. And I said, you know what, I would not trade that for anything. The experience that I had being a Gopher was the really one of the best times of my life, just with wrestling, with friendship, with everything. All of us, we really we're a tight knit group, which I'm sure there are other places as well. But man, we're so close. Half of us, like I said before, half of us like we can't leave. We're like puppies, like we can't leave our nest. All of us are like within like 10 miles of each other.
Now, I am curious on your response, because I don't think I've actually ever asked any Lesnar questions on this show in its previous 45 episodes. But what was your response or reaction the first time you saw Brock walk into that wrestling room and you could actually see what he could do?
Yeah, he was there. I remember the first time we actually saw him we hadn't signed him yet, because we were like at the Bison, but they were like, yes, he's committed to the Gophers already. And we watched him at the Bison, where you seen this big guy just like double leg people, but not like that double leg that stays in bounds. It was like the double leg that went like 20 feet off the mat because they couldn't stop. And we were just like, yes, this is awesome.
What about when he gets unleashed?
Plus, now maybe I can run my mouth to whoever I want.
Yeah. What about when he finally got unleashed in the Gopher? There's so many of those highlights of him going out at the national duels, and it's just like, oh my goodness, winning the duel meet. What was that moment like?
That was really fun, and we were red shirts at the time, so a lot of times we were driving around to all these events to watch. We were like getting done with school and like, okay, 4 of us, let's pile in this car that barely works, and we're going to drive, like 6 hours to wherever, or 12 hours to wherever, and try to catch the national duels. And yeah, it was a fun time.
Now, excluding yourself, who is your favorite Gopher wrestler ever to watch? You see what Chris is doing here. He's giving it in your era. Now he's giving you the whole ever.
Yeah, he's really trying to rattle cages.
Yeah. I'll gladly let him take the heat for this.
I don't know if I can answer that. In my era, I'm going to say it was just super awesome. But I loved watching all of our teammates, and even now, I mean, we're starting to get a bunch of Pinnacle people that we've invested a lot of time in that are there now. It's really exciting. Problem is we got people everywhere now, so it's hard to be. It's really hard to just be a Gopher fan right now, which essentially probably gets me in trouble. But we have so many guys that we've, like 10 years with of 3 times a day, and their families are good. And we get together with their families for like barbecues and just, I mean, it's easy to cheer for all colleges where you have guys that you care about. So I'm now like a multi. It's really easy for me to be a bandwagon person now. I can be a Gopher fan, but all of a sudden Penn State's now in the run, and I'm like, yes, Brady Bergen's there, so I can cheer for Penn State too. Like now I can cheer for Ohio State and Greg, signs there, or now I can, cheer for this, whoever's winning pretty much I can cheer for. So be like, yes, we got a guy there, we can cheer for them.
You got some Gopher faithful right now just going, no! Now, here, last question in regards to, excluding all Gophers, I guess, so you don't have to worry about not throwing any of your teammates some shade, but who's your favorite wrestler to watch ever?
Well, I grew up in the era of watching John Smith. He's always like, I'm like I said, I tried to pretend I was this guy, like on the living room floor, I was John Smith and I was taking on the entire world by myself. It was just like a shadow match. My parents would probably come down and be like, who is he wrestling? And so I'm gonna have to say that is my all-time favorite guy to watch wrestle.
Come on, Mom, I'm wrestling Bela Glazov.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's enough of the drill sergeant questions from Willaert. That's all the time he's going to get on this show for quite a while. He got a lot of questions there, but Jared, in the time we got left, I guess overall thoughts going into this high school wrestling season, this college wrestling season, the club off season. I mean, what's in store for Pinnacle and you and Brandon?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now we're just getting going with our preseason. This is actually week 1. Today is we have our last high school practice of the week, and then we can rest. It's been a week of like my body's sore again, like my knees hurt. I'm like, Jesus, I got to get back in coaching shape. I'm tired when I wake up. But we have a lot of people like Emily Shilson is getting ready for the Youth Olympics. That's like October like 12th, 13th, 14th or something like that. It's in Argentina, where the U.S. they're trying to mimic like the Olympics there. So we have her kind of still trying to do some freestyle stuff with, in folk style practice. We got Maci Kilty, who's getting ready to go to the women's junior worlds. Then we had, Greg and Brady and, there's a couple of guys, U23, some Greco guys that are, past Pinnacle guys, Logan Cass, Carter Nielsen. They're getting ready for U23. That's like in November. So good luck to all those guys. So yeah, we got some preseason tournaments coming up. We're going to take a group out to the Journeyman tournament. We got Super 32s. You got preseason nationals. We have JJ Classic that's like here in Minnesota. We got a couple youth team tournaments that we go to, and there's like a middle school national duels that Pinnacle is going to try to take a team to that. We take a team to Virginia. We have a couple fall camps set up. One's in Ohio where we meet up with like Young Guns and a couple other people from Ohio, Kilzicki, and we have a couple Michigan people that come up to it. Oklahoma people come up to it. I'm a busy fall from here on out. I'm home this weekend and then I'm gone until like November.
Yeah, we actually neglected to mention the girls. I mean, you brought up Emily, and although Maci, she's over in Wisconsin. But let's talk about them. They had successful cadet runs, and Emily got another year at Centennial coming through, and she's been on a couple Cadet World teams now, the junior level. Whoa, first of all, these two are hammers. What's it like to actually watch them compete? And, they both have different skill sets.
It's really fun just because they are, and they can really hold their own with really anybody. So it's really fun to watch them battle in the room. I mean, Maci, can go with, like Patrick McKee. They have no problem duking it out with whoever. It's really fun.
What do you think the biggest adjustment for those two are going to be moving up from, their cadet success to the junior age group?
Emily, for one, I think has got to get bigger, right? I think she's too small. That's why she's, I don't think she actually even, junior worlds. I don't know if she's big enough for the smallest weight there. And normally I would say it's, like some of those girls actually get a little bit more muscular, but man, Maci, man, she's awesome. I'm really pushing for her to be the first Pinnacle wrestler to bring home 2 world championships in 1 year. That'd be awesome.
Would be awesome. We'll keep an eye on that. You can watch the Junior World Championships from Trnava, Slovakia on trackwrestling.com. Jared Lawrence, thanks for the time, man, and I'll see you when I get back from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, all right. I will make sure the fridge is stocked.
Support wrestling in the land of 10,000 wrestlers by subscribing to The Guillotine. 9 issues a year for just $20, the best value in Minnesota wrestling. Subscribe at theguillotine.com/subscribe.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.